Hi everyone, welcome to MyPlate the Kentucky Way. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a healthier plate for our family, as well as tips and tricks on how to introduce new foods to our family, and then just how to overall have a family mealtime together and the benefits of that. So MyPlate is a national standard for building a healthy diet. And so as you can see on the screen, half of your plate are fruits and vegetables. You have grains, protein, and dairy. And then on the right, you'll see a visual of kind of what that will look like when you have your plate, and it's replicating MyPlate. So what does it mean to build a healthy plate? It's kind of like if you're building a house or building a structure, you have to have a good foundation. So today we're going to be talking about those foundations, how to build that, and just overall to make our families healthier. So on the screen now, you can see this is a clip from the CDC, the new dietary guidelines. And you can see that the current intakes for ages 5 through 8 right here. So if you see the blue, like the light blue, that's the recommended intake ranges. And then the purple is the average. So if you kind of look at this just overall, you'll see that the average intakes are actually lower in this age group than they should be. So hopefully, this is a visual aid that's going to help you realize that we maybe need to include more of the food group items when we are having meals at home with our families. And the dietary guidelines they just came out with, they actually have recommendations for children, and this is for ages 2 through 8. And so as you can see on the left in the blue, there's actually suggestions on, and it breaks down like dark green vegetables, red and orange vegetables, and fruit, dairy, and oils. So this is something fairly new that's been put out, and this again is on the CDC. So a healthy eating foundation. Diseases such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes are responsible for 7 out of every 10 deaths in the United States every year. And if you think about it, that's a large impact, and just making these small choices about eating healthier can help prevent some of these diseases in our families. It can lower your risk for heart disease, stroke, some cancers, type 2 diabetes, and osteoporosis, since you're getting the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. So these are some great benefits, and there's also more. Just it improves your overall quality of life. It may allow you to live longer, and then it gives you more energy to do the things that you enjoy. And so hopefully these benefits will make you want to go ahead and hopefully maybe along with the information, get some tips and tricks on how to do that. And then I just want to encourage you and just remind you that empowerment is that you have the ability to make healthy food choices. And it starts with learning new ways to eat, adding more fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains. It also involves cutting back on foods that have a lot of fat and sugar in them. And when we're talking about our families, I'm sure you growing up can remember the types of foods or how they were made in your home with your family or your parents or your grandparents. And so those traditions that you pass on to your children do have an impact on your family. So we hope that when you see this, that you'll realize that you can empower your children and your other family members to eat healthy. So our first way to build a healthier plate is to include half of your plate with fruits and vegetables. And this can be a challenge, but if you think about it, if you use frozen, fresh, or canned fruits or vegetables, these are things that you can have on hand at home. And I want to, as we go through building our plate and making it healthier, in the past, I know in my family, we think about, well, what do we want to eat for supper? And the first thing you maybe think about is what meat or what protein that you're going to have. So let's think about today, changing our mindset into what fruits and vegetables that we want to have with our meal, and then building off of that and adding our protein last. So it's definitely a different way to look at it, but it will help us hopefully incorporate more in fruits and vegetables and make half of that our plate. So when thinking about vegetables, eating a rich diet in vegetables may reduce a person's risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancers. So vegetables that are such as like spinach and beets and greens and other dark, rich vegetables are rich in potassium, and that actually helps lower your blood pressure, and it reduces the risk of developing kidney stones and helps prevent bone loss. Also, vegetables are low in calories, are high in fiber, so they help keep you fuller longer and without all those added calories. Basically just filling your plate with vegetables means making sure that you purchase, prepare, and serve them at every meal. And that's something that we have to be intentional about. And I know sometimes I struggle with that at home. So hopefully, we'll find different ways to do that here today. So then also your vegetables, you want to vary them. You don't want to have the same vegetables all the time. You want to offer a variety of that. And what that looks like for your family is going to be different from everyone. And when you serve them, maybe if your family only likes carrots, think and find different ways to cook those carrots. You can serve them raw or steamed, and you can bake them. But if they are raw or steamed, that has the most vitamins that we're going to benefit your family cooking them that way. And then fruit, like vegetables, provide a lot of vitamin C, dietary fibers, folate, and potassium that, like we mentioned before, helps control your blood pressure. And it's important to have fruits on hand. I know sometimes fruits are definitely one of those things that I don't always eat a lot of. So I try to have fruits chopped up in the refrigerator, or have dried fruits, or canned fruits that are just easily accessible at home. That way I am more prone to eat them and then feed them to my family as well. So I want to talk a little bit about overcoming the barriers to using vegetables at home. So if you have, like we talked about with the fruits, having vegetables in your home at all times, and remember, the darker the lettuce, the more nutrients that it contains. And to serve a vegetable at every single meal that you have. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then sometimes if that may not happen, you can include those vegetables or fruits as a snack throughout the day. You can add vegetables to your soups, stews, casseroles, pizza, rice, pasta dishes. There's a lot of different ways to be creative to add more vegetables into our daily meals. Make vegetables more appetizing. You can add low-fat dressing to them, or a dip to maybe convince our younger ones in our families to indulge on vegetables. And then plan your meals, like we mentioned before, around vegetables and not just meats. Overcoming barriers to fruit. We've talked a little bit about these, about keeping them on hand, keeping them visible and easily accessible, especially during those busy times we have. You can also add berries, bananas, and peaches to your cereal, to your oatmeal, to your salads. If you maybe make a smoothie, just kind of tossing some of those in that as well is going to help add those and break down that barrier. You can also use fruit and put it on yogurt. You can put it on some of your low-calorie desserts and baked apples. Those are just different ways to get more vegetables in your diet. And the second thing we're going to talk about is filling a quarter of your plate with grains. And making those grains actually whole grains. So you can see on our image on the right, the orange, that is the section, or kind of when you're visualizing your plate, of where your grains are going to be. In 1/4 of the plate, add a whole grain. This can be anything from, you can do toast, bread, oatmeal, cereal, a variety of things you can add. And when you fill your plate with grains, try to include whole grains. And I mentioned that before. That's you definitely get the most benefit out of whole grains. And the benefits of whole grains, it's lower the risk of cancer by 20%. It reduces your cholesterol, and it also helps with bowel functions properly. So step 3 is adding our protein. So we talked about first starting with our fruits and vegetables, and then selecting our protein to match what fruits and vegetables that we're going to be serving during our meal. And when we think about proteins, it's kind of shift your mind to decide what protein goes well. But we also want to shift to thinking different options of proteins. So proteins may not just be beef or pork. Definitely those are the most popular, but you can also have seafood. You can use beans or eggs or peas. Those are different ways to add proteins into your meals. So you could add those to salads. You could add it just, to a variety of things, or even snacks. And just remember that beans and peas are a part of this group. So those can be replaced as proteins on occasion, and whatever fits your family. And when we talk a little bit about seafood, it's important to try to include seafood at least once a week, and that in your meals. So a lot of times we tend to eat, and I know I'm guilty of this as well, tend to eat more protein than we're supposed to. So if you think about it, one serving is, and here's a list, 4 ounces of steak is one serving. A small lean hamburger. So lean, that could be, when you go to the store, you have the options of like 80-20, what those different types of options. So a leaner burger. 3 ounces chicken breast is actually a serving. 1 can of tuna. 4 ounces of salmon. 1 cup of split peas, lentils, or bean soup is a serving. And when you're preparing your protein, just try your best to bake it, grill it, or broil it, because those tend to be the healthier ways to prepare those. And then also I wanted to mention, we're talking about protein, is protein foods to limit. So processed meats, such as hot dogs, sausages, pepperoni, I'm sure you can think of several processed meats that we can purchase to have. They actually contain more sodium or salt. So salt in general as a food ingredient has many uses when using it for food, such as curing meat, bake, masking flavors, retaining moisture, or just enhancing your flavor when you're preparing it. But most sodium that is extra in our diet every day comes from the added salt that's in these processed foods. So just keeping that in mind, that many of the processed foods that we can purchase has that extra sodium in it. And so maybe limiting those to when you eat those a day. And the last thing we're going to be talking about for our plate is including dairy. So sometimes we think about dairy as just drinking a glass of milk, but it can be a variety of things and can become something we include in our meal and our snacks that we have throughout the week. So try including dairy products such as cheese or yogurt, milk as part of your dish on your plate. Foods in the dairy group provide calcium, potassium, vitamin D, protein that improve your bone health and may also reduce the risk of osteoporosis. So dairy products may also reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and blood pressure. So that's a big list of things that we can prevent or try to help control by just adding dairy into our meals. And so keep in mind, when you're looking at those different dairy options, serve 1% low fat skim milk when we're purchasing those products. And as you can see on our plate on the left of your screen, there is our dairy. So it is on the side, like I said, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So how much dairy is needed? Earlier in the presentation, we talked about the different recommendations from the dietary guidelines, but these are just depending on your child, of course. Older children, teens, and adults around 3 cups. Children 4 to 8, around 2.5 cups, and then children to 2 and 3 years old, 2 cups. So thinking about how we can add those into ours and our children's diets. So overcoming barriers to dairy use. So we're going to start with, on the left-hand side, include that fat-free, low-fat milk, fat-free or low-fat yogurt or cheeses as a snack. You can add those things to your breakfast, your cereal, your desserts. You can add them to yogurt, to your smoothies. You can top a baked potato with fat-free or low-fat plain yogurt or low-fat cottage cheese. You can use, if you do not drink milk, you can use almond milk or other type of vegetable forms of milk. You can add low-fat cheeses to your casseroles, or use skim milk instead of water in recipes or in certain baked goods. So there's a lot of different ways to add dairy into our meals. And then lastly, desserts and sweets. Keep in mind that there is still room, but in moderation. So just think about ways that even if you do serve desserts and sweets, they come at the end of the meal after you've had all of your nutritious things, and then try to find ways to make them lower calorie, whether that's, adding fruits and vegetables to those. There's lots of different ways and tips and tricks that you can do that, but just keep in mind desserts and sweets, you can still have them, but just in moderation. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talking about introducing new foods to our families. And this can be a challenge, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult. Eating new foods just sometimes can be scary. So some things you can do is serve your child's favorite food along with those new foods. You can encourage your child to eat a new food, but remember, don't force it. Keep serving a new food even if your child refuses it. It takes 7 hello bites for your child to learn to like a new food. So that's saying you need to at least introduce it 7 different times and have them take a small hello bite for them to decide, if they like it or not. And then serve small portions of new foods and let your child ask for more. And overall, and with anything that we're doing or any changes, be a good role model. If you don't try it and your children don't see you trying it, then they're not going to try it either. That goes back to, we talked about beginning of our presentation about encouragement and encouraging and empowering our families to eat healthier. Please remember to make meals fun. So you want to eat your meals together as a family. You want to sit at your table and turn off your TV, turn off your phones, turn off all your electronic devices, and allow that time to be a time to talk to your family and to create those great memories. Use your child's favorite spoon, plate, bowl, fork, anything that they have that may encourage them to try these new foods and to eat healthier. And then lastly, don't use foods to reward, bribe, or punish your children. So basically, this slide is maybe a little bit hard to see, but it's just encouraging that small changes can be a big impact. So you don't have to change everything at one time. You can just take your time and make small adjustments and see how that goes before, like I said, changing everything at the same time. So whether that's cereal with added sugar, changing that to cereal that has minimum added sugar, or fruit products with added sugar, you can change that to canned fruits with 100% juice. And when you're selecting these things, you might be thinking, like, how do I know these things? You can look at the food label on the back of your product that you're buying. And that will have a list of ingredients. And the very first ingredient on that list is what it has the most of. So if you're buying juice and it says the first ingredient is sugar, and then you can look in the daily a value on the chart on the back and see the percentage of sugar that's added to those juices. So it's just selecting and being more mindful in the grocery store. Changing fried vegetables to roasted vegetables. High sodium snacks to just eating vegetables. High sodium meats to, we talked about earlier, ground lean meats, whether that's turkey or chicken, or seafood. And then one thing we haven't touched on is beverages, but think about beverages and those added sugars that you're consuming and your children are consuming every day. So switching those beverages that have that added sugar into unsweetened beverages. And then also you got in your packet healthy tips for picky eaters. And so this is just another resource that you have that you can use at home to help include new foods into your family. And just keep in mind, picky eaters aren't always children. They can be adults too. But again, as we've talked about through this whole presentation, starting that while your children are younger and being a good role model will help your children try these new foods. But so this just kind of talks about how to cope with picky eaters. Let your kids be produce pickers when you take them to the grocery store. Let them have a say in your meal. Have your children help you prepare your meal. Offer choices. And so instead of saying, do you want broccoli for dinner? You can say, which would you like for dinner? Broccoli or cauliflower? Again, it goes back to helping them be involved in that meal. And then enjoy each other while you're eating meals. Offer the same foods for the whole family. And then try new foods. Start with small portions. Offer one new food at a time. Be a good role model. We talked about that before, about trying those foods along with your children or your other family members. Offer new foods first. Your child is most hungry at the start of your meal, so more likely to try those hello bites at the beginning. And offer new foods many times, which we've mentioned before as well. And then make foods fun. Cut them into fun shapes. Use cookie cutters. Encourage your child to invent and help prepare snacks. And if you do that, make a name for them. And whether it's Peter's sweet potatoes for dinner, it could be that. Just anything creative to get your family involved. And then also included in your packet, reducing the risk for choking in young children at meals. And this is a publication we can also, you can pick up at your local extension office if you do not have a copy of it, but there'll also be a link provided as well. And so as many of us know that children under the age of 4 are a high risk for choking while they're eating. So being more mindful and just taking those small steps to just help prevent choking while we are eating meals and eating snacks. So the first tip is to prepare food so they are easy to chew. And you can do this by making eating safer for kids you can cook or steam those hard foods like carrots until they're soft enough to pierce with a fork. Removing seeds, pits, skins from your fruits and vegetables. Finally, chopping up the food that you're serving, as you see at the little graphic on the right about chopping them up, thin slice, smaller pieces, no larger than ½ inch. So just making that extra effort to chop those into smaller pieces. Removing bones and from fish and chicken before you cook and before you're serving them. And grinding up tough meats and poultry. And then there's also the avoid choking hazard. That is a list of items to try to avoid and to help prevent choking. Do not serve small, marble size, sticky or hard foods that are difficult to chew and easy to swallow. Some examples of that are cheese cubes or blocks, chewing gum, dried fruit, gummy snacks, hard candy, that can be cough drops, jelly beans, hard pretzels, ice cubes, marshmallows, nuts and seeds. And keep in mind that some breads that we can purchase actually has those in them as well. Popcorn, Spoonfuls of peanut butter or nut butter. Spread them out on toast or crackers. Serve only creamy and not chunky. And then whole, round, or tube-shaped foods such as grapes, cherry tomatoes, hot dogs, all those things. If you're going to serve them, those type of things, you can see in the graphic on the top, it's to cut them and not serve them in those tube shapes. So, such as carrots and hot dog string cheese, cut them in strips rather than round pieces. And just keep them in mind to avoid serving foods that are as wide as a nickel, which is about the size of a young child's throat. And then just other teaching good habit tips. And we talked a lot about these things already in our presentation, but only providing foods as part of meals and snacks and serving them in a high chair, serving at your dinner table. Allow plenty of time, so don't rush your family while they're eating. Take the time to enjoy each other. Making sure your children are sitting upright, and then just modeling safe behavior. When that includes eating slowly, taking small bites, chewing your food completely. So just modeling those behaviors. And then if you have older children in your family, asking them to be a role model as well for your family members. And then last, certainly not least, here are, we provided recipes in your packet, and those recipes are, there's actually different ones. There's some that are eat smart to play hard, and these are recipes, and some of these include ways you can use the produce from the seeds that you receive in your packets. And so I know one of the first recipes is crispy oven zucchini fries. So that is a way that you can utilize those different seeds and that produce that you're going to get from those. That you in your package, you got green beans, squash, zucchini, and cucumbers. So we've tried to include different recipes utilizing these. And also there are little cards that say Plated Up Kentucky Proud. And those are recipes that you can actually find at your local extension office, of course. But you can also visit the Kentucky Proud website. And this website actually has all recipes for all produce that you can find in Kentucky. So Kentucky grown produce, that we provide recipes for those. So you can look up, if you're thinking about how am I going to fix this beet, you can go to this website, and there are different recipes and different ways that you can hopefully introduce these new foods to your family that you're growing in your garden. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact your local extension office. They're always there to help and provide helpful resources for you and your families. Thank you.